welcome. Happy Thursday. Oh, got a banger for you today. Seventh? I don't know which debate this is. Seventh or eighth debate in total. Come on, let's have some conversations, everyone. I'm glad this one got picked up. One of the people in the community, Bud P, picked it up, and I'm excited to get into the wild world. Some the world doesn't make sense to people. Some of it makes perfect sense, and we're gonna bring out all the facts, all the arguments, all the compelling pieces to it, and respectfully challenge each other here and there. And it should be fun. Should be fun. So I'm excited. Chat's popping off. Keep it respectful, please, chat. Otherwise, the mods will do their job and help you be more respectful by limiting the amount of talk that can happen in the chat. So anyways, without further ado, welcome to the show for the first time and to the debate. Bud, how's it going?
Good, Max. How you doing today?
Doing good. Just we've been doing 2 days until the morale improves. So until PulseChain gets to glory, we may do a couple streams per day from now on. How's that?
Sounds great, man.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
How about you? What's your always people asking people new to the show too, like what's your kind of introduction to the PulseChain in general? How'd you find this place?
Okay. I'll try to keep it brief. So
sure.
I found Richard when he made the 20,000 Bitcoin top call with Rand Newer. Came into Hex, claimed Hex off of my Bitcoin. Day one Hexagon, been here for the sacks, invested, been here the whole time, man. Not a dev, didn't see a place where I could add value. So I just consumed a ton of content, learned from Richard, as I'm sure everybody who's watching this did. I saw an opportunity maybe 7-8 months ago to start pushing forward the message of a low deal title and why that's important. And so I started getting on streams with Coexistent Steven, and then got into a lot of the Atropa stuff. It might have been longer than that. Been looking at Atropa for maybe a year, trying to learn that. That's been a very complicated learning curve. Just like I said, man, I've been here since the beginning. I just never saw a place for me to add value publicly until recently.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So you've been, wow. So you said you were day one SAC or day one Hex?
Well, I was here for the beginning of Hex.
Okay.
I was here when Richard was talking about CFD token before he even considered Hex, right?
CFD
so,
token.
Yeah, I'm probably as early as it gets.
Wow. All right. Well, so, I mean, I think a lot of people coming in, probably a lot of people being onboarded from pDAI into PulseChain have only been here for 6 months, a year, maybe around SAC time as well. It's always, I kind of want to start, I do want to hear I want to get into like the whole idea behind pDAI, and we can even start from when when PulseChain launched and it was forked and all the P copies came over, and why that's compelling and the different narratives. But also I want to talk a little bit about just there's so much happened with it this year, especially. Where do you want to start as far as helping people, helping them frame like what is desirable about pDAI? Why is it such a critical piece? Where does it fit into the system? I want to give people a framing of what the whole narratives at least were, and then we can talk about like what they are today. But what is pDAI?
Okay. So I think you can back it up one step and ask the question, what is PulseChain? What is the PulseChain ecosystem? And to me, it is a decentralized financial system. It's the emergence of brand new tech. It returns ownership to the token holders. I don't think most people recognize how important the ruling from Judge Amon was when PulseX, and Hex got that ruling, because the PulseChain itself was ruled to not be under the purview of the SEC, meaning we're the only blockchain that doesn't fall under the purview of the SEC, meaning the US government can't seize your assets. I don't care if it's pDAI, HEX, whatever asset you hold on it. We live in a place now where you actually have a allodial title, and I can be brief about that.
Yeah, what is allodial title? I've never heard of that.
Okay, so allodial title is direct ownership. A lot of people think in the current financial system that they actually own their stuff. You do not. Like if you own a stock, you don't have a stock certificate that's sent to you. All stocks are held at the CFTC, right? You have a claim on it. The same way you have a claim on the money in your bank account. If that bank goes under, and you have more than $250,000 in your checking account, right? You get FDIC protection for $250,000, but anything over that, if the bank goes under, you're like third in line in a bankruptcy. Like when you deposit funds into the bank, you do not own that cash anymore. Okay, and that's a feudal system, and that's what the entirety of the economic system is today. Had we had an allodial title system in 2008, we wouldn't have had a financial calamity. And the reason for that, being how nobody owns anything, derivatives writers were able to compromise assets. And when they went under, they would have drugged down everything into a bankruptcy, and stuff would have got settled, and individuals would have lost their positions. Had we had an allodial title on all of your assets, the derivative writers could have went under, and it wouldn't have harmed you because they couldn't have confiscated your stuff. Okay, so when I've listened to Richard speak and he talks about changing man's relationship with money, that is part of it, but it's really changing man's relationship in the way that he holds his assets. If you go ahead, I'm sorry.
I was going to say on that, you mentioned, sorry, getting this background noise on that. A little bit of background noise on me, but maybe on your speaker there. So you mentioned that change with like Judge Amon's ruling and stuff. Do you say we have an allodial title system with PulseChain? Like what's the relation there? How does that work?
Yes, we do. Because, okay, let's look at the Stablecoin Act that was just passed, right? All of those stablecoins are going to be issued by private companies, whether it's Coinbase or Tether, right? So when they did that, they basically skirted the US Constitution. And if the US government does not like something that you're doing, they can contact Tether or Circle, and they can freeze your funds, right? If you look at the US Constitution, it says that the government is the only one that has the power to mint money. They've created a workaround. And as they're going into this system now, if you hold stable coins on ETH and you misbehave, they will freeze you, right? It's a CBDC that's held by companies. That's what that is.
So the analogy is basically like admin keys. Then, like the system without admin keys would be closer to the allodial title system.
Yes. Like, who are you going to call on the PulseChain ecosystem to freeze your hex? Doesn't work, dude. I mean, if they contact MetaMask, it doesn't matter. There's other front-end wallets, Internet Money Wallet. We used to have Rabby, right? There will be more spin-ups. So you now are able to hold assets in a location where you don't risk having your funds frozen.
So PulseChain's decentralized. The place you think Richard made PulseChain to have this, to fulfill that ideal of decentralized, can't freeze, no admin keys, all that stuff. I think a lot of people agree with. Yeah, I mean that's a lot of people say, oh, it was made for Hex to make Hex work better because gas fee stuff. A lot of people say it was. I mean, my position is he made it because it's the natural step to like own vertical integration for all these things, which may lead to the decentralized, piece of it as well.
Well, PulseChain only came to life because Ethereum screwed us, right? Like when Richard first launched Hex, the idea of Hex was to be a better Bitcoin where you could earn trustless yield, right? And then they decided to ratchet up the S load, and then it made the staking unaffordable. So I don't think when he launched Hex, his intention was to design the entirety of an ecosystem. That came later, and that's just my interpretation of historical events.
Yeah. So how does pDAI fit into this? What happened with when PulseChain forked? How did, you know, buying, a lot of people would say, hey, why would you create a stable coin you could buy really cheap and give people an opportunity to make money on? Why wouldn't you just launch one brand new that starts at $1 and let people, you know, put liquidity up for that? Like why pDAI? Why did pDAI start this way?
Okay, so what happened to the guy that created MakerDAO?
I'm going to say trouble.
He was killed in 8 inches of water, right? That really happened. The guy drowned in 8 inches of water. If I was going to launch a stable coin, I would not want my name on it. I wouldn't even want to be associated with it.
But couldn't he just launch it and then not tell anyone it's from him? Like kind of like Pump Tires. Some people think he did Pump Tires. I don't think he did, but let's say that he did. His name's on a non-official PulseChain product. Why wouldn't he just launch it and not say anything about it? It's like, oh, it appears the new stablecoin that has a ton of liquidity is on PulseChain. It looks pretty decentralized. Go use it. You know, why not that? Like every other product.
Well, because everything on a blockchain can be tracked back. Who funded the original transactions? You can't hide that stuff, man. I mean,
Tornado
you have an immutable ledger.
4 million ETH, 4 million ETH or so went out through Tornado Cash to do things, maybe. So I think you don't think he could figure out a way to hide that kind of launch?
He hasn't. Okay. He's a lot smarter than me, so maybe he knows something I don't.
So just back to pDAI, though, like why? What, you know, let's go with that. Like, let's say that was the case, that he launched it, and or that the whole thing, all the pieces, everything's on chain. Like I heard all the time. That is a big piece of this decentralized network. Why is it? What is important about pDAI as far as decentralizing PulseChain?
Okay. In order to have that conversation, should we talk about like what is a meme and what isn't? Like get a clear definition of what that is.
Great point. Real quick too. I'll just let everyone know in the chat. I forgot to provide the positions and framing. Yeah. So this debate, there's two or three at least different debates you can have on pDAI. This debate in particular, we may go into other topics. We may talk about different stuff. But in general, the main focus of it is pDAI a meme coin or not? Does it have some sort of utility, or is it just a coin for the community to speculate on, all that type of stuff? And you're taking the position that it's part of a decentralized network. I forget what. Can you state your position just so everyone knows?
I think it's going to be the stable coin of a decentralized financial system.
Okay. And I'm going with, to me, and until proven otherwise, it's a meme coin. That's my position. So yeah, okay, I'm glad you brought that up.
Can you go to Grok and just ask Grok, what is the definition of a meme coin in cryptocurrency? And we can read that and see if we agree with that.
Can I talk to Grok with this browser?
I have it on my phone if you're comfortable with me reading it.
Yeah, you can do it. That'll work.
Okay, it says a meme coin in cryptocurrency is a digital token or coin created primarily as a joke, inspired by internet memes, cultural trends, or humorous concepts. These coins often lack significant technological innovation or practical use cases compared to major cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Their value is typically driven by community enthusiasm, social media hype, and speculative trading rather than intrinsic utility or fundamentals.
I would say I would define it as the latter part. The first part is kind of like putting a little bit more colors on it. Yeah, the latter part to me is just, is it based on speculation, or is it based on some bigger narrative that is more than, you know, a guesswork type of thing? Like, again, there's plenty of meme coins where like, maybe one day it'll be part of the system. Maybe one day it'll have value. Maybe one day we'll build something on it. Maybe one day some, you know, rich guy will buy it and there'll be some, like, you know, kind of unproven, maybe these things will happen Whereas you look at Hex, what can you do with it? You can stake it. You can. There's products built upon it. There's whole ideals and foundations and founder and all that stuff too. So there's kind of different.
It has utility.
You
Can
can
we
boil
say
it down.
that? Yeah, we can say that a meme coin doesn't have utility, and other ones like actually have utility. Is that fair?
Yeah, I go with that.
Okay, I just think it's really good to clarify terms so we don't talk past each other, and then we can kind of work through the bullet points as to why we have a difference of opinion. So I can start. So when we had the origination of Pulse, we got all of the P copies, right? pDAI is the forked copy of DAI on Ethereum. And with that came the technology behind it of MakerDAO. So unless somebody wants to make the argument that all of the P copies are memes, I don't believe so. But to say that pDAI is a meme because it's forked over, I think that's wrongheaded.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't make that point. As far as I wouldn't say it's a meme because it got forked over. I would say it's a meme because, well, I guess the first thing I'll throw out is the past few months we've seen the exploiter. We've seen the system break down and not work as it would on Ethereum because of various reasons, network changes, all that type of stuff. And yeah, the minting thing's been turned off. We can get into some of those technicals if you want to as well, but it doesn't. That's what to me. So before that, I was open to the idea that it could be, hey, what if it is part of this? What if it's going to peg? What if, I never did really talk about it and think much about it. I'm just more interested in the cores, all that stuff. It was all to me this speculative, hey, I haven't seen anything to show it's not going to do that. So maybe, I don't know. I just didn't pay much attention to it. But then after that happened, after April or whenever all that stuff happened, I was like, okay, it looks like it's not even technically feasible for this thing to work and I've watched a lot of decentralized me videos and all that stuff, or something major needs to happen, such as RH. He needs to go do something. And to me, when I always think of RH doing something, especially if it's a community project, especially if we're just like waiting on him to do a thing, oh, he just needs to put in $1 billion worth of liquidity. That to me seems very, very low likelihood. So I kind of wrote it off after that. After I saw the exploiter stuff, after I came to the conclusion that this is never going to work technically now, and RH always needed to do something in the first place. That's why I considered it a meme coin, because it doesn't have utility on PulseChain the way it would have on Ethereum.
Okay, so when you saw they, like with the Maria FUD and then Richard coming out, and then they did the ESM on MakerDAO, and for a long time, I have been of two minds of whether or not Maker was actually killed, or whether it basically comes down to was a 0 or a 1 used in the in-cage function when they ran the ESM. And like I've already stated, I'm not a dev. That's well beyond my scope. So instead of trying to dig into that and probably make a mistake trying to learn it, sometimes you just have to give it time to see what actually has occurred. Okay. So if you go to, I can pull this up real quick. Yesterday, there was a post put out where they have on-chain evidence now that Maker vaults are being collateralized. Well, in order for those vaults to be collateralized right now, and it's not minting pDAI, it's bringing the vaults in the MakerDAO back up to even, okay? So with that happening, that tells you that Maker was not killed. And I can give you the post of the guy that made it with the on-chain evidence, where everybody can research that on their own. The post came from YeeterSync. His name is OX Daredevil, and he has all the receipts from the chain that shows you that MakerDAO was not killed.
Can you put it's possible to put the link in the private chat, and I can pull it up on my on the screen, but if you can put it in the private chat on here.
Let me see. Let me find it. I did not have it copy pasted. Here it is. Let's see. Let's go here. I'm trying to pull it up. I'm sorry for the delay.
No, no worries. Take your time.
Next. Oh, here it is. Let me click on this. Now, copy. Come over here. Paste. Okay. That should take you to the post. If I did it right.
Yeah, I got it. Second, I'll pull it up. So I'll put this in the chat as well. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this. So Xerix Daredevil agrees everyone today. I front run the announcements with my own discovery that's a bit mind blowing. Collateralized vaults are not being open to MakerDAO. What is interesting about this collateral appears to be coming from other blockchains such as ETH. This would not be so mind blowing, except that ETH is not the only network. L2 Polygon, Gelato, Uni LP tokens are being deposited. False 2. Here's the transaction. And then release transaction, EOA wallet address, a link to a block explorer looks like for a transaction. And then the point of these transactions were successful after ESO. The fact that Polygon, Gelato, Uni, LP tokens are allowed, successful being deposited means MakerDAO is being upgraded. The fact that the vaults are being made and collateral is being deposited suggests that we are nearing completion and be almost ready. Hold on to your hats. I think this is, again, I don't know how to connect the dots on these different pieces because I'm not deep in the weeds on the maker contracts and the recent happenings and all this stuff. But it just seems like every time there's always this, from time to time, announcement of like new chain analysis that is why it's good for some reason and stuff is happening. There's so many questions that come from that though. Like the first thing I would think of is, let's say this is even like all this is accurate and it's all of it's happening and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that it isn't. Let's just say that it all is. Let's go with it because I can't verify it because I'm not deep in that spec of the contracts and stuff. What is it? How does that get us any closer to minting and all this stuff? Like it's like can't this just happen every week where it's like there's activity, somebody called some functions on the contract, and then that gets us closer. Like can't that just go on forever without anything actually coming to fruition?
So when the ESM was ran, I don't even want to say that because I'll say it wrong. I really want to be accurate with the things that I'm saying. I think for this conversation, let's just say that all that information is accurate and that MakerDAO is not dead.
Sure.
Okay. Will you accept that for this conversation? And if we need to bring in somebody to do a technical conversation about it,
I'm not gonna. For this, I'm totally okay to be like, let's assume all this is like 100% working, going towards something. It makes sense. There's no errors. Like, let's go with that. Let's go with the best case on this.
Okay. So why is that important? Well, so now you have an updated MakerDAO. There's actually a flaw in MakerDAO that was discovered. So we have an updated version of Maker now on PulseChain. And just for clarity, would you consider DAI on Ethereum a meme coin, or would you say it's a utility token?
No, it's got clear utility. It represents a dollar backed by collateral.
Okay. So if we now have an updated version of Maker, and you're going to have the ability, once the vaults are collateralized, to mint more pDAI with deposits when you start to bring in the pComp and pAve protocols, lending protocols into Maker. Why is that important? and this goes back to how we started this conversation, is if this is a new financial system, and I don't know exactly how many pDAI there are right now, maybe 44 billion or 26, I can't remember. It's hard to keep up with all of this stuff. So, but that's not enough liquidity to run a financial system. You have to have something like Maker in order to generate the capital to have a financial system. So, how much is needed? Well, if you look at the euro dollar market, and if you know what that is, the euro dollar market is offshore US debt that comes out of the city of London or out of contracts. The last estimate I saw on that, there was somewhere between 500 and 750 trillion dollars of US debt in the euro dollar market, right? That's outside of the US. That doesn't count what's going on inside. So if you're trying to create a financial system, you have to have a protocol that can spin up enough capital to meet the demand. 44 billion will never cover it, right? So keeping Maker around is extremely important for this ecosystem to work. Now, why is a decentralized stablecoin so important? Well, as we already, do you want to say something?
Yeah, on that. I think that just this way, again, I'm assuming this is close to 100% correct, and it probably is, all that stuff. But how does that become the pDAI to like I guess do you believe it's going to peg? Like, do you believe decentralized it needs to peg in order for this to work? Or like, what's your thesis there? That could be interesting.
I believe it will peg. And I'm not telling you it needs Richard to do it. I'm telling you that there are things inside of the Atropa system that will help. If you understood the Atropa system, then you're going to have the P copies of PUSDC, PUSDT that are going to peg as well. Atropa is designed as the first line of defense against the P stables. So that's how I interpret it.
Yeah. Atropa has entered the chat on this one. Yeah, I think this is a good intersection too, to be like, what? So okay, so if RH doesn't need to, so you said Richard doesn't need to make a peg. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I'm saying that it can peg without Richard Hart depositing capital.
Okay. Do you think he's behind? Like, do you think he has anything to do with pDAI?
I mean, yeah, of course, obviously. But if I was him, I wouldn't want nothing to do with it either, publicly.
Because you want to avoid trouble and all that stuff. He wants to avoid trouble and all that. Okay. So if Atropa, if it doesn't need Richard to do anything to peg it, and Atropa can do it, but Richard, like, there's so much missing in the middle of this. I'm trying to like ask like some good questions around it, but it all, you mentioned, but it can do it, right? Like, and I bet if you ask somebody in the community, why can Atropa do it? Or if I asked you, we could probably have a 2-hour conversation and go through all the mechanics. And like, I'm going to watch out 40 videos about it. Isn't it more likely that it can't do it? And like pDAI, there's like just no way it's going to go to $1. Like, what is actually going to get it there other than just believing it's going to go there?
If we don't have a decentralized stablecoin, this whole project's shit. All of PulseChain. It's all garbage.
Okay, so the idea is that if this doesn't happen, PulseChain can't be that decentralized network. It can't be that what was the word? The title.
Decentralized financial system.
Yeah. So it can't.
No.
Go ahead.
No, we won't be a decentralized financial system without a decentralized native stable. Okay. We will be a meme chain like Solana.
But why couldn't Richard, again, I kind of mentioned this in the beginning, why couldn't he tomorrow be like, it appears USDP has launched on PulseChain, the stablecoin on PulseChain, go check it out. And the stablecoin launches and there's pools, and it's literally like a fork of DAI where, PulseChain devs have admin keys or something, I don't know. and it has none of the baggage, it has none of the exploit stuff, it has none of the stuff. It all works perfectly with PulseChain, and he doesn't even have to put his name on it. He just launches it. Why wouldn't that be more likely than all the rabbit holes with pDAI and Atropa and all that stuff?
So people who historically have challenged the US dollar, so we already talked about the guy that invented the MakerDAO. He's dead. You have Muammar Gaddafi. He got a sword up his rear end. You have Saddam Hussein. You have historical precedent of people who have challenged or tried to innovate outside of the US dollar. It is a dangerous space. I would not do it. I mean, you're gambling with your life.
But if pDAI is, does peg to dollar, all this stuff, wouldn't Richard get all the credit? Like, wouldn't everyone think it's his stablecoin anyway, since it launched on PulseChain and it did this amazing thing? Like,
would you want the credit?
It's not even about, no, but like, it's not even about like what he wanted or not. Like, wouldn't everyone be like, Richard Hart created PulseChain? Of course, he's a billionaire genius founder guy. Of course, he made the pDAI thing work. Like, wouldn't he automatically get credit?
Not if he's come out with 33 posts saying that he disassociates himself from it.
That piece is too. I know we're going to get to it at some point, but like, he pretty much disavowed pDAI entirely, and even showed people how to, or he suggested about turning off the minting for it so it stops extracting from the ecosystem. But you think that was just like it's just a chess move? That's just like, oh, of course I got to say that. Like, that needed to happen. Like, it almost brings in the light of that. You think he had any part? Like, you think Vietnamese guy who drained everything, you think that was just made up and like part of an excuse to deflect the credit?
Okay, so let's back that up just one step. When you had Richard come out and start disavowing pDAI, and then you had the Maria FUD as well, I look at
real quick
that.
On the Maria FUD, real quick on that. That was real though, right? Wasn't that like live dumping or live? They call it dumping. I want to be generous here too with it. It's like live changing around assets to make it not take down other stuff. I think there probably was some strategy.
Yeah, he was reallocating his liquidity positions inside of the Atropa system and started dumping and extracting value. And one of his last statements during that time was, if the system survives, I will recapitalize the system. Right? So what was that? At the time, it was chaos, right? But we had a 99% dip, okay? What if that was just a real world stress test?
What would it be testing?
To see if the Atropa system would actually stand up to a 99% drawdown. Because if we get to a penny on pDAI and you take a 99% move up, there's your dollar. And you've already tried the inverse and it didn't break it.
What was it testing to break? Where I'm not sure I understand about what would be important to test Atropa.
You have to have an understanding of what Atropa is. Atropa is not just a token. This is really hard, and I'm okay to be wrong. I can say this stuff, and in a year from now, if I'm wrong, I'm giving you the facts as I see them. I'm not an oracle. I have no inside information. I'm just trying to put the pieces together, and I'm sharing it with people. I'm doing the best I can with what I'm seeing, okay? So I spent a long time looking at those liquidity pools inside of the Atropa system and trying to understand Atropa. Coexistent, Stephen and I went through a lot of stuff, and we learned a lot together online on his channel. My personal belief is the Atropa system is the first line of defense for all of the P stables. And what do I mean by that? What did we see in Bitcoin when it got to a certain level? You started to see accumulation and distribution patterns, like the Wyckoff accumulation, when you start to get an asset that has enough energy behind it, you're going to bring in professional killers, okay, investment bankers, hedge fund managers, and they're going to try to start moving that price up and down just as they did in Bitcoin so that they can extract and take profits. It's insider trading. So with the Atropa system and the liquidity web that's built behind it, once you take all of the P stables to $1, and then there's more want for those, and there's more energy pushed into the backing of the Atropa system, you're going to be able to treat that as a shock absorber for the stabilization of those tokens on PulseChain, okay? And all that pressure is not going to be put directly on that liquidity pool or in the liquidity pairs via Hart's law, and it's not going to be placed on the MakerDAO. So you're going to have, that's what Atropa, to my mind, was designed for, was the first line of defense for the P stables.
Okay. So it was testing if it could go down a lot. Would Atropa survive? Like, would people not pull their liquidity? What would failing the test look like?
According to Maria, if the token count at that time for pDAI got over, what I think it was 26 billion, then the whole thing broke. It's 26 or 27, and it didn't. Right.
I had a tweet here I was going to bring up Synergy. You know the icosahedron founder, Alex McWhorter?
Yeah. I got some costs in Hedron. You bet.
Shout out to icosahedron V2 Sigma, whatever it's going to be called one day, maybe.
Maybe he's kind of ghosted us, hasn't he?
It's been a while. It's been a while, Alex. But he did a write up on the OSM and all that stuff too. And when you said 27 billion, I was looking at this meme, and he said, I guess one of the technical explanations of the piece when it all happened, he might have came from this meme. Put in 25 billion collateral or dump to this very, very low number options after OSM is fixed. There's been some pretty smart people opine on the tech side of pDAI, you'd be able to survive on PulseChain. So even with Atropa, you say RH doesn't need to do anything, or it doesn't need to fund it or whatever. Are they missing something too? Because I'm pretty sure he even launched a fork of MakerDAO or something to even test it out to get to the bottom of some of this stuff.
Right. So if you look at some of the, I don't know what your opinion is of 9 Iron Capital. Do you have one?
I just know that just a person in the community that knows pDAI and stuff like that, I guess.
Okay. So he's put out a lot of stuff, him and Decentralized Me, about pAI and pComp and the lending protocols and how those are going to be used to help with Maker and the stabilization. I don't want to say much more because now we're getting into technical stuff that's like past the edge of my knowledge. I'm comfortable to say I don't fully understand. I can look at it and get a general concept, but I don't understand it well enough to explain it to those watching today.
Yeah, no worries. No, it's just I think the point on that one, you mentioned the billions, and I didn't know if that was related or not. So I wanted to bring up his tape because let me just go through real quick. Maybe picture spell it out. Build unified liquidations UI of PulseChain. Not super useful. Nice to be able to see things happen in real time. Place PLS, and then so he just goes through because OSM was broken. You lose money being on these, and then so what was the TLDR? People saying in bug it is since hard play. Yeah, I think that's makes sense. What was? Oh, sorry, I thought I had it handy here. I think it was down here. TLDR when pGAI goes to near zero or someone triggers ESM to stop it. So do you know enough about that event to talk about it too? Where I think even Richard tweeted about ESM was turned off or something for it.
Right. The ESM was ran by Caddy and surfacing. And that's like we said earlier in that hell, this might be wrong now, stuff changes, but at the time, my understanding of whether or not Maker was completely dead or if it was placed into for lack of better terms, a mode, was it had to do with a 0 or a 1 with the end cage function. And I've heard arguments from both sides and people presenting evidence. And I just decided I was going to be of two minds until enough time passed so we could get clarity on what actually went down.
I just found the one Richard talked about too. This pDAI cancer may be coming to an end. 22 hours ago, someone ran the fire function on the ESM module, which runs a cage function. That's what you're talking about, the end cage?
Yeah, end cage function, yeah.
In the end contract, which begins the shutdown of the system is in shutdown mode as evidenced by the live and having a O for status at the end of the contract. Here's a link to what people can do now they couldn't do before, and a description of what a timer has to do with all of it. Not a dev, gave it a quick glance to your own research. Gives the links there. It looks like someone's running the free commands in the end contract for the first time. Links per procedural for algo. Okay. See anyone? Just looking for technical pieces. Okay.
I guess so if that is correct and it's all dead, how are those vaults being collateralized as of yesterday? And I'm comfortable to say I don't know for sure, man. Like it's so hard to know for sure. I'm comfortable to say is Maker still there? I don't know. I
think there's two big pieces, to this conversation too. One is the technical side, which again, it's neither of us are devs and probably can go too deep on that side either. Again, I can look at a contract. I know how to call functions. I know how to do stuff like that. I'm versed in tech, but I don't know. I have not studied or deep dived into any of the Maker stuff and all that. So I can't even opine too much on how interesting or correct these are. But I could just talk about what Alex and Richard posted here too. But the other side is the belief and of the. I always go back to, even when we go down, the rabbit hole for this or that. It's like, at the end of the day, there seems to be missing this piece of like, I feel like if there was this like one piece of evidence that it's going to happen, this shows it's going to happen, it would be there. But it's always this like up and down roller coaster of, oh, this, these functions are getting called. There's activity. Somebody suspects it's RH. Atropa is gonna do it, or it's always this waiting and just belief type of deal. And that's where I think the conversation is important, where it's like, what makes this going? What makes it going to happen? It's other than just thinking it's going to happen, wanting it to happen. I think a lot of it's want to, like, everybody wants a decentralized stablecoin, right? Like, sounds a cool idea. That's what I said before all the exploiter stuff happened. That sounded interesting. Oh, we had the world's first decentralized stablecoin. That sounds good for PulseChain. I still don't think we need it for PulseChain to be successful. I think it's going to happen, but I just don't know if it's going to happen through pDAI. But anyways, I said a bunch of stuff. It just seems like a lot is missing in between. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The difference in where we are right now as a community versus where we were with Hex was we had Richard explaining everything to us with the origin of Hex and him saying it 100 different ways so that everyone could understand it. And because of the lawsuit, because of a lot of things, we're all just as a community trying to figure it out. And I hate that we take such an ardent stance where we start taking other people's ideas and running them down as human beings or running down their idea. Basically, we have an opportunity as a community to work together to do the best we can. And I really wish we could get past this player versus player mentality. And I feel that coming. And look, I've been here since the beginning, man. And I have core investments. Okay. I have Hex, I have PulseX, Pulse, I have it all. Right. And I want those to do well. And I'm not trying to publicly promote pDAI to get people to dump their Hex bags and come to pDAI. Please don't do that. Right. stay where you are. When I got into pDAI, I brought fresh capital into the system. Okay, that's how I got my pDAI exposure. I was not selling my core tokens, right? So by me being out here allocating for pDAI, I want everything to work. And I think we will all win in this bull market. Okay, it doesn't have to be you versus me. There's a lot of liquidity coming, and we're all going to win together. Some are going to move faster than others, but okay, let's say pDAI does make it. Say I'm right. All right. What are we talking, 125x, right? From today's levels? I mean,
Well,
Pulse is going to do a lot more than that.
That's actually the question I was thinking about the other day, or talked about briefly, which was why it seems like there's two types of people, or two, I guess, reasons people buy pDAI. One is because the speculation on the price. Hey, it's under a penny. If you think it's going to go to $1 or more, then there's a bunch of X's there. And then the other part is like just believing, like you want to support, you believe this decentralized stablecoin, you want to support that, you want to contribute whatever, and be part of it, making it happen, which is like this powerful idea and stuff too. So price speculation, just supporting it because you like the idea. But that's what came up the other day, which is Hex, PulseChain, PulseX, all that stuff. As a community, a lot of people think it's going to go not just hundreds of X, thousands of X's, right? Like maybe even yourself, you believe that it'll do like way, way better than 125X.
I do. I think Pulse is the Ethereum killer. I really believe that, honestly. I think we will absolutely replace Ethereum. So is 1,000x possible? Sure. Or what has Richard said, a 14,000x?
That's what Ethereum did from the bottom. I think that's what he was talking about.
Right. Like he could be spot on, man. Like Richard's pretty good with his calls. So, for me, what I'm trying to champion to people and to get everyone to understand is the importance of a native stable inside of a financial system. Because if we are going to grow, like I think, this isn't by the end of the year, this is going to take time to spin up. But look at what's going on in the world, okay? Like look at what happened with Russia and Ukraine. And the US, through the SWIFT system, froze $300 billion of Russian assets. You can't do business like that, right? So if you have a blockchain that nobody has a kill switch to or a freeze function, you could take countries' sovereign wealth funds where they do business and they'll be able to transact on a blockchain. That's the long goal for something like PulseChain, is sovereign wealth funds, hedge funds. But to have that, you have to have a stable coin. You can't come in even into like Bitcoin or Hex where there's volatility and price movement. You got to be able to have stability. That's why in a financial system, a stable coin is paramount. You cannot have a financial system without a stable coin.
Why not just, when you say stablecoin, I assume you mean like a fully decentralized stablecoin.
Yes.
PulseChain has plenty of stable, and probably, you could speculate it would grow much, much more. I hope to see $1 billion on the bridge one day in stables and combined Hex or otherwise too.
A decentralized native stablecoin.
Do you think people are going to look at, when they look at PulseChain and think, hey, this is really the ideal, like this is the place for people to go where they have there's absolutely no control over the stable. Like this, they're going to flock to PulseChain because it has this decentralized stablecoin where that is the killer feature. It is like the decentralized stablecoin of PulseChain. Is that the case you're making? Like why it's so important?
Well, the stable's only part of it. Hex is an immutable lock smart contract. There's nobody to call, right? And if you hold value in Hex on PulseChain, you'll have the same protection as you would have with a decentralized native stable. So all of that protections are built in. Not every token now, because you have to look at, some of these tokens that get launched, they're rug tokens, scam tokens. They've got admin keys. They got all kinds of stuff. So I'm not saying this across every token on PulseChain, but the ones that are secure, like I believe in Hex, I believe in PulseX, I believe in Pulse. I'm not a fan of Ink. I just never have been. There's people that are. I'm not. To each their own. I think Icasa is a good one. But the protection is afforded via PulseChain. I'm just telling you, for a financial system, you have to have stability, and US dollar dominance is not going away. Okay? There's no country on the planet that wants to take over the world's reserve currency. None. And if you want to have a global macro talk, I can do that, but it's not the point of this conversation. So US dollar dominance via stablecoins is going to increase. Everybody believes in the US dollar. So if I'm going to put my value, a portion of my value safe, I want it in a decentralized native stablecoin with no admin keys, no ability to call anybody to freeze my funds.
That seems like such a very minority view, though. And again, I agree with you. Of course, like, if you ask me, would I rather have a fully decentralized stablecoin or a not? Of course, I'm going to pick the decentralized one. But there's billions, probably trillions of dollars coming in stablecoins that are not that, and people transact. They use other networks. They're working fine without it, even if they know that they could be blacklisted or all that stuff. I'm super for decentralization and privacy and all that too, but I just don't think 99.9% of people would care enough to go out of their way to, put in the capital, energy, and effort to make something like that even happen on PulseChain, whether it's pDAI or not. It's a cool story. It's a great narrative, like I said before, but it's like, why wouldn't they just use any other network to transfer money around? Because even the banking system works fine.
Nobody cares yet. Nobody cares yet. That's an important word.
What would make them care? What event would need to happen?
Tell me the difference between the SWIFT system and these stable coins on Ethereum that are getting spun up. There's nothing. You can still freeze funds. Between USDC and Tether, they've frozen almost $1 billion. Is that how you want to build a financial system? If you're a foreign sovereign that's in bad relation with the US, are you going to trust that when you know that the government can call that corporation, whether it's Circle or Tether, and freeze funds? It's no different than them having the ability to call the SWIFT system and lock Russian assets.
So you think if pDAI did peg, then that would attract sovereign investment into PulseChain?
Yes.
Is that like the high ideal, I guess, high level?
Yeah, ideal? That's optimal for me. That's what I want. That's what I want for the world, man. A central bank digital currency is slavery, right? And these stable coins that are coming out from private companies, you guys don't recognize it yet, but it's still going to put you in a slave mode. If they can freeze your money, they can take it, like, you don't own it. Like, PulseChain, outside of physical gold, is the safest place in the world to store value. Why would you leave?
Today or when?
Yeah, after the Judge Amon ruling. Yeah. That ruling was the biggest thing to ever happen in finance, and that's my opinion.
I want to go back to the pegging too. Is there a scenario? I guess what is your A, B, C scenario of, like, I guess the number one, the plan A, the best possible outcome is pDAI pegs, and all the stuff comes together and it's decentralized stablecoin and just all that works. Have you thought about if it doesn't peg, or if it does go over $1? Like, is there other scenarios that you're like, okay, well, if we can't get this next step would still fulfill part of the promise of decentralization and all that? Or is it just like, this is going to happen and or not?
Well, okay, if it doesn't happen, then we're all slaves anyway, and nothing matters. I think PulseChain is that important in the history of humanity. I really believe that. And I didn't say pDAI, I said PulseChain. It's that important because it returns ownership to people directly, right? Now, will pDAI in a run-up go over $1? Possibly, but you can't, everything in the universe is waves, man, right? So when you get a run-up and it starts to go, and it goes a little past, then when it goes past, these liquidity positions inside of the Atropa system are going to trade that value out through our bots, right? And it's going to disperse that value inside these other liquidity pools. And then it's going to come down. And then those R bots are going to push some pressure back in. And it's going to do this until it levels. Okay. So it's not going to be like a boom, insta-peg. The Atropa system will help balance it. So if pDAI gets to $1.50, everybody just calm down. And I think, honestly, that's what's so important with Liberty Swap.fi. They're only allowing, what is it now, $7,000 a transaction, right? We don't want a huge flood to come in all at once. We want the system to be able to absorb all of this value and disperse it appropriately. And as the system gets larger, they'll increase the amount of liquidity that can come in, because proportionally, it will continue to ratchet up. Like you're seeing, what do we see, a 30% move in hex, right? Like
it's like per day at this point.
Yeah. So if they can scale the amount of money that comes in, then we're not going to overblow and really cause rigors to the system. Okay. I hope everybody understands, or will, if you don't understand it, you can start to learn about allodial title and ownership. Can you get on Deck Screener right now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, will you pull up Deck Screener and go to pDAI and pull it up?
This is always tricky.
I know, right? So hard to find.
PLS? Yeah, I guess that one.
I don't know if that's the right one.
Do not type in pDAI, everyone. Do not type in pDAI. That is not the right one.
Nope.
The ticker is not pDAI.
So type in Atropa in the search, and you should see the Atropa DAI pair come up. That one. Now click on, can you go down on the right and click on DAI?
To this one?
Yeah, I think yeah. Yeah. Or I want to now take that contract address and paste it in the search on Deck Screener. And that should give you pDAI. Yeah. Okay, click on that, please. Now on the right, scroll down. Right. Okay, so right there, that narrative, go up a little bit more. I'm sorry, go down. Go down. Down. So I was contacted by PulseChain DAI, and I helped write that description. PulseChain DAI, myself, and 9 Iron Capital wrote that, and that's what this is about.
So just read it for everyone too. Doesn't see it. pDAI is the only stablecoin with a legal precedent placing its domiciliary status outside the United States beyond SEC jurisdiction. Like all tokens on PulseChain, pDAI is unconfiscatable, ensuring user sovereignty. The network's global validator set, nearing 50,000, fosters true decentralization, granting users allodial ownership, censorship resistance, and absolute control over their digital holdings.
That's the future I want to see.
I mean, the idea, just to summarize for people too, there's a ton of stuff we covered and a lot of different ideals and stuff out there with it. But what you're saying you've said so far is pDAI, like RH doesn't, he's has something to do with it, but he doesn't need to put a bunch of collateral in for it to peg. And that Atropa is a big part of it. And that the whole ideal is that it becomes this decentralized stablecoin. It fulfills PulseChain's like destiny as the decentralized network where people can trust their funds won't be confiscated, all that stuff that was in the summary. Is that the, I guess, the high level idea? Let's just catch everyone up who.
Yeah. And this is, I encourage people to update your worldview. We've heard Richard use that phrase multiple times. We don't have to look at cryptocurrency as player versus player. Everybody who's here, regardless of your stance, right? You are the pioneers in a brand new financial system. And it's okay for us to argue and to have different ideas, but we're getting to a point where we're bringing in outsiders, right? Those of us that we can disagree as family, but let's keep our arguments quiet and handle them amongst ourselves. We have to be a positive place for outsiders who don't know, for them to come, right? It benefits everybody.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think there's no point in being, I've talked about this the other day during the stream of like, it's not like this is like one of the biggest communities on PulseChain. Even though I don't get it, I don't promote it, I don't really talk about it that much, especially after the last few months of the stuff that just didn't jive with me as far as it becoming something that I thought I had more hopes of doing. I'm not like the community still exists. They're huge. And the reason Liberty Swap added them to the swapping stuff, because there's probably, I imagine if you look at the stats, there's volume coming in from them. There probably will be people onboarded to PulseChain through pDAI because they jive with the narrative. They believe it's going to peg. They, think like decentralization, whatever it is. There's plenty of people who may be onboarded too, who are just kind of like, hey, I like this coin. I'll learn more about it as I go. And that's why I like having these conversations and debates and stuff too, is to be like, instead of just pDAI to $1, they see a lot of positive stuff on that. How is that going to happen? How, what is the ideal behind it? Why would anyone want that to happen? Which you've explained a lot as well. And the mechanics behind, can it actually happen? The tech side, the things we've seen happen throughout time too. So I think the reason like having these conversations too is there may be new people coming in who are like, I don't know how this works, but I see that I like this coin for whatever reason, and they come to PulseChain for it. We definitely want to onboard people to PulseChain. I hope to have these discussions and be like, okay, if you have questions about it, people can ask them and they can get answers that if they're looking to dig deeper into it. So definitely, I don't know, I feel like it's easy to be civil about it. I think people get emotional because they think, I guess if we talk about the criticisms of this, of any meme coin or any speculative token that people, for example, I'm still in the position that I think it's I don't think it's going to peg. I think it's a meme coin, all that stuff. A lot of people would take that who share that and push it to, hey, you're getting people wrecked. Hey, you're promoting like if you pDAI community, you were getting people in and it's going to go to zero eventually, and that's money they could have bought Hex with or whatever. Is it just how do you think about the criticisms of like, what are the top criticisms of pDAI and stuff, and like, how do you kind of, what is your case for being like, what you stated, right? Is it just a belief? Like, is it, again, we can talk about all the on-chain evidence and that only a few people can read and stuff too, but I don't know. How do you address some of the criticisms of pDAI?
Okay. So I want the world to be a better place because I'm a father, right? And if I can promote an ideal, a system that is going to make the world better and fair for my kid, then man, I'm in. Because when you become a parent, you realize you don't matter, right? It's past you. You have legacy. Am I operating off belief? Yes. Am I invested? I've used this before. I'm a I am a bit of an idealistic investor. I'm trying to help breathe life into this because I believe it's that important. I believe this is a pinnacle moment in humanity where if we get it wrong, man, I don't know if we'll get another shot, right? I don't think that just because you're born in a certain place that you're less of a human than I am, right? I think there needs to be fair and equitable markets for every single person around the world. And we can do that through a decentralized financial system, right? And if me coming on to these and trying to get others to understand that helps bring that just a little bit closer, then that's what I'm willing to do. So
I think you definitely have better intentions than many out there. I don't try to put labels or intentions on people otherwise, but I definitely think I talked about it. Part of the three groups of people I would say interested in pDAI. It's like the true believers, people like such as yourself are like, I want this thing to happen because I think it would be good for the world, good for PulseChain, all these pieces. The others there's a lot of people out there just trying, would you disagree? There's plenty of people who just want to make money. They don't care about decentralization. They just want to buy low, sell high, and pDAI is an avenue to do that. Even though we talked about how a lot of people think Hex and PulseChain will do much better in pDAI, but like that's their thing. Like they got in low. They want it to go up, and then they're going to sell. They're not going to use it as a stable coin. Right? You agree? There's probably some of those people out there too.
Yeah, and I think a lot of them got shaken out in that drawdown. I mean, there's that community that follows B Roots, right? Like he was an ardent pDAI supporter, but people like that, and that's not just limited to the pDAI community. There's people in the Hex community that were running these short-term stakes and dumping on everybody's head, right? These are profit takers, right?
We fixed that. Yeah, we fixed that.
Yeah, of course. Richard fixed that when he got pissed and the community kept dumping, right? Like zero inflation now. Well, 1.5.
No more 30%. Why? Yeah. And again, I just want to clarify too. Anyone out there selling Hex, selling whatever coin you want, do whatever you want. I was just opining on the OA's moves to adjust inflation. It's pretty, hopefully price go up because now there's not the staking narrative, at least for the next 10 years or so. OA ladder.
Yeah. I agree though. Yeah. I completely agree with you that there are people that are just strictly here for profit because they don't have a broad-based understanding of what is right in front of them. Like we have an opportunity as a community, and unfortunately there's not enough leaders in this space like there was when we saw the launch of Hex with Richard, right? Like as I said, man, I don't have any inside information. I don't talk to anybody. I'm just looking at stuff and trying to come up with what I foresee coming in the future, and I'm sharing it. And I don't think anybody can be hurt by the words that come out of my mouth. Don't invest. I've already said, do not sell your core coins to move value to pDAI. Okay. Please don't do that. Hold that value there because I think in the long run, you'll see more X's on that money. That's why I've left all mine. I believe all the core coins will outperform pDAI from this point of pDAI's price. So if pDAI does go to $1, there's a lot of tokens I missed, man. I didn't get in it, and it's okay. I'm still happy for the people that won. That's totally cool.
So you look at the X's and pDAI almost as like a cherry on top of you want the thing to happen, and the X's are just kind of they're there, but it's not. The bigger thing is the decentralized stablecoin.
Yes. Yeah, man. That's my message. I was like that thing that you showed, the description. PulseChain DAI contacted me via Twitter, asked me to write something. He had seen me speak on Steven's thing, so I sent him a draft, and then him and 9iron had kind of worked on it, and then that is the description for pDAI across all CoinGecko and everywhere, right? That's the message: is allodial title, right? Is direct ownership of your stuff, and it's not just for pDAI; it's for assets on PulseChain.
just want to go back to the criticism for a minute too. Is there, because I'm sure you've heard plenty, and I brought up a few, and we talked about it as well. But on the constructive criticism side, in that vein, what are the top one or two that you get that you're just like, just got to believe? Like, I don't, there's no good answer for you. Haven't even seen a good answer for you. You're just kind of like, we haven't seen it happen yet, or it's just there's no on-chain evidence. Like, what are the top one or two criticisms that you come across?
All the back end talk on the stuff with Maker, because I'm not a dev and I don't have the ability to understand it thoroughly, right? And I know people can come up and say a bunch of stuff. Unless I can understand it for myself, then I just have to believe at some point, right? So that would probably, the technical side of what's going on with Maker, what's going on with pAI, pComp, these lending protocols, who's doing what. Like, I've seen reports on the 5996 wallet where he's spun up a private, what was it? I think it was from, people be mad at me for not remembering off the top of my head, but I think it was from either Arbitrum or like an L2, where there's a lot of work being done as far as what it would take to get the peg. If you look at some of the stuff the 5996 wallet has done, there's a lot of good stuff that the Viet Dong or whatever the hell people call it, right? Like, but wallet's been here since the beginning. So was that obfuscation? Possibly. Could people be upset with Richard because Richard, like, what if Richard is behind it? I don't know, right? Like, he's publicly stated he's not. But what if it gets there, and what if Maria and Richard actually were working together to bring this whole thing to life? You have to even go to like Richard's Twitter profile. It says Richard does not communicate on Twitter. Says it right there. So he made a point to say, I don't communicate, but then people are saying, well, his tweets mean something because he said it. It actually says he doesn't communicate via Twitter.
I think you take that both ways, though. There's probably plenty of things that are, yeah.
But is that not obfuscation?
I don't know. I think that's just boilerplate for previous legal thing. I think he does. I speculate he does. That is him tweeting.
Yeah, I think it's him too. But
like this Trump tweet, that one actually is a good question. Like, I don't know if you can use a phone. I'm not sure.
I don't know if that's him.
Not being oldest or anything, but it's just like, I don't see him typing all that stuff out all the time so nicely and with no spelling errors. I'm pretty sure it could be like a Scivive thing where Richard did Scivive, but like audio, like where Trump just like, he just talks and then somebody like writes it down or it just tweets it.
Well, he's got better talk to text than I got. My talk to text is terrible.
Presidential talk to text, it could be good. Yeah, that's kind of a interesting piece of it too, is for Richard, is like everything is so vague, and every once in a while he'll drop something that's direct, like, oh, look at this pump tires launched or something. But the latest bullish tweet that we saw, about Hex doing reminding people about Hex 10,000X and mega marketing, and it was so bullish I forgot any exact quotes from it. It was pretty good though. That, I don't know, when is he you think he's ever going to come out and say, do you ever expect to see anything pDAI related come from him on his X?
No, like I've stated, man, it's too dangerous for anybody to be associated with it.
Yeah, it's so just want to go back to, you were talking about, what if, Richard and Maria are working together and all that stuff. I still think it does kind of reminds me of the thumbnail for this one too, which was very hard to do, by the way. I tried very hard yesterday for a long period of time to come up with a thumbnail that somehow represented this discussion. That was very hard. But I did go with Infinity Gauntlet. And it does kind of remind me of maybe the way that I think about it too is, if I, again, just saying there is a possibility of all this stuff. If there is a possibility, it is kind of one of those, like, there's all these other things that they're not working together, and he's not behind it, and we're going to have it in another way. And I'm certainly on the page. I would love to have a fully decentralized stablecoin. I want that to happen. I don't think pDAI is that, but I want that to happen in general. So all these things happen, but there's like that one other universe where, the pDAI thing happens. And I don't say that to be like, oh, we should all hope for that universe happening. I'm just saying, like, that's the chances that I think a lot of people give the whole, what we've seen happen over the last 2.5 years or so with pDAI, of that actually happening since the last 6 months and all the stuff that's went back and forth. I think that's probably a good way that many people think about it, is there is this other possibility that it is true, and it is 400D chess and all these things are happening, but there's so much uphill to believe and get through and speculate and wait and all that to get through to actually be like, oh, this is, that one's going to happen. And it's much more, right. Everything else says that, no, that's not going to happen. It may happen in some way, but it's not this token. It's not this setup. And I don't know. I think part of me thinks too that even that I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't peg, but Atropa and all this other parallel like stuff, something does come from it, and it goes somewhere and does something. Like, I'm not even saying like a good or bad thing, but there's a lot going on in PulseChain and a lot of different stuff happening. Even if it doesn't peg and do all these things, that again, I put it in the Memecoin category. I put it into pDAI could go to $5, it could go to $2, it could go to $0. But it's like, there's so many reasons why, to me, there's still so many reasons why it wouldn't happen. So many different things that would have to happen in order to make it happen, when we could have a decentralized stablecoin in a totally different way too. So anyways,
so why not have a speculative side of your portfolio? Like, pDAI is not my largest holdings by far, right? Mm-hmm. I took a shot at it. I mean, I'm doing really well for my entry point. Probably better than I am even on my cores, just because I've been here for so long, right? But I can be wrong. Like I said, I don't have a crystal ball, man. I'm not an oracle. There's no leadership amongst us. It's a community. And we just have to keep talking these ideas through. And look, if it's not pDAI, if Atropa is a failure, which I don't think it is, then I would be able to admit that I was wrong. And that's okay. I'm not lying to anybody in this moment. My intentions are being honest as I can be. That doesn't mean I'm 100% right.
Oh yeah, like I said, I think I don't imagine you're even alone in a community of plenty of people who, again, they want something better than the financial system we have. They want decentralized stablecoin. They want a lot of access too. They want PulseChain to succeed. There can be more or less extreme views and all these different types. Everyone fits within the spectrum. I think kind of what you said earlier, if like just everyone, can we at least get along and be civil to each other, and again, have conversations like this where it's like, hey, I didn't change your mind, you didn't change my mind, but we had a conversation about it. Now everyone else hopefully is more informed, that they can be like, all right, that makes sense, or okay, that doesn't make sense. So I think that's one of the power and underrated things about PulseChain, is it does bring people together who come from different backgrounds and different ways of looking at things. And you mentioned, even if there's plenty of people who probably don't believe in certain coins, or do, and have certain allocations in their bag, lottery ticket theory, you got all that stuff too. So I hope that
Sure.
I hope that no matter what happens with it, whether it pegs or doesn't peg, or it becomes nothing or something big on PulseChain, that again, everyone can at least be like, okay, well, that's your flavor of thing. That's your group. That's your people. That's what you want to do. And it's this long-term sustainable thing, not these short-term 6-month flip games, which is something I'm much less interested in.
Right. And if it doesn't work, I hope we keep innovating until we do find something that does, right? Like, I don't have any real direct answers, man, but I just want to see people's thought process evolve from player versus player. pDAI is not taking, maybe it has in the past, from the Hex community, because we did not have people coming into Pulse, right, during the lowest of the bear market. But there's liquidity entering now, fresh liquidity. And we're all going to, like, a rising tide will raise all ships. Everybody's going to do just fine. Okay. So just everybody, like, if you disagree with somebody, it's okay. That's your viewpoint. Like, Max, if you still believe the way you do, it's fine. We had a great conversation. I feel like it was a respectful conversation. I'm happy to come back anytime. We're just two sovereign individuals just making a case.
Yeah. I think, PulseChain is definitely heating up, and I'm excited to. Again, these are topics people want to talk about. Again, everyone mutes pDAI. Everyone who doesn't like pDAI, I'm saying, doesn't want to talk about it, doesn't want to engage. But I don't know. For me, it's always been like, well, I want to hear what they have to say. Again, I don't have to, change my views on it, but at least being able to say, okay, here's what this thing's about. Again, hopefully everyone listening and in the chat, live chat and replay will be like, okay, I at least know more about it. Whether I go more towards one side or the other, at least they know more about it, and they're not just seeing, hateful messages or to the moon messages all the time. So that's what I'm trying to do with all these debates. And I really appreciate you joining me for this one. I think it's a great conversation.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, man.
All right, everyone. That's all we got for you today. Scivive and 5555. We are out.